don't know if I should tell you this, but I don't know because and it is with the people. The ones you trust. They don't want me here anymore.
A man standing at the absolute peak of global fame, yet his fear isn't aimed at tabloids or lawsuits, but at people themselves.
I was sickened. I was sickened by the standing ovation. I felt like Hollywood is just spineless, en masse.
Jim Carrey, one of the most recognizable figures on the planet, visibly uncomfortable and unsettled on camera. And here is a man who willingly walked away from $50 million just to escape the system surrounding him.
The media, man, it is one hell of an entity. It really can have you thinking that the bad people are good and the good people are bad.
3 individuals, 3 different eras, 3 distinct voices, all delivering the same underlying message. The system protects itself. And now, for the first time, people are beginning to connect what Dave Chappelle warned about, what Jim Carrey observed with unease, and what Michael Jackson understood long before the public was ready to listen. Because here's the missing link. Michael Jackson didn't just understand the financial mechanics of the industry. He may have known exactly who he was dealing with, who sat across from him at private dinners, and what occurred behind closed doors. And one of those individuals was closely connected to Jeffrey Epstein. S.O. Instead of starting with scandals or tabloid headlines, forget Wacko Jacko. Let's begin where Michael himself did, with money.
Throughout the years, black artists have been taken advantage of. It's time now that we have to put a stop to this incredible injustice.
This isn't the behavior of a man losing control. This isn't instability or eccentricity. This is someone who carefully studied his contracts, witnessed what happened to artists like James Brown, Sam Cooke, and Sammy Davis Jr., and then chose, publicly on a London stage, to stop pretending the system was ethical. He called out Sony directly. He named Tommy Mottola and described him as manipulative and deceptive. He openly accused record labels of exploiting, deceiving, and conspiring, particularly against black artists. What many people overlook is that Michael Jackson wasn't just a performer or a brand. He was an owner. He controlled major assets, including the Beatles' catalog. He deeply understood music publishing in a way that unsettled executives, because ownership equals power. And power means independence. The moment someone in that system stops following orders, consequences follow. Phone calls begin. Stories appear. Narratives shift. Dave Chappelle has described exactly what happens next. He called the industry a monster, one that consumes individuals and then blames them for being consumed. He walked away from $50 million.
Think about that.
When he stepped away and left for Africa, the system didn't call him courageous. It labeled him unstable, irrational, broken. And suddenly, the media narrative changes. He's lost it. He's gone crazy. Chappelle himself questioned it. Why was choosing to stop seen as madness? He even suggested that perhaps he knew things others didn't want exposed. Sound familiar? Because the exact same strategy was used against Michael Jackson. The moment he publicly challenged Sony, he was rebranded. Strange, erratic, unreliable, someone not to be taken seriously. Chappelle recognized the pattern.
He spoke about it.
And Jim Carrey, observing from a distance, saw the same structure. Carrey spent years warning that Hollywood isn't merely a workplace. It's a system that shapes and controls people. He described certain artists as wild cards, individuals who can't be predicted or controlled, and therefore make the system uneasy. If you understand what he meant, one name fits that description better than any other: Michael Jackson. Now, let's move beyond theory. This wasn't vague speculation. It followed a clear, repeatable pattern. Step 1. Isolate the individual. Step 2. Create a scandal. Step 3. Use a trusted public figure to legitimize it. Step 4. Destroy credibility before any defense can take hold. In 1993, this pattern was executed, and it nearly worked flawlessly. The accusations involved claims that a child had been manipulated into making allegations. Reports suggested the child was influenced under questionable circumstances, raising serious doubts about the authenticity of the claims. Instead of immediately going to authorities, Demands for large financial settlements were reportedly made behind closed doors. That behavior resembles strategy, not justice. Michael refused to comply. The case eventually collapsed due to lack of evidence. Authorities found nothing conclusive. Under normal circumstances, it should have ended there. But here's what often gets ignored: the timing. The first wave of allegations surfaced in 1993, right after Michael publicly challenged Sony. That timing wasn't random. It aligned too perfectly to dismiss. Then came nearly a decade of silence. No new claims. Nothing significant, until 2003, when suddenly, allegations resurfaced again right as Michael began speaking out once more. The media didn't just report, it amplified. Mockery became mainstream. Late-night shows turned him into a punchline. Tabloids reshaped him into a caricature. Candace Owens later reflected on that period, noting how the intensity of public backlash coincided almost exactly with Michael gaining ground in his conflict with Sony. The timing, she suggested, was too precise to ignore. Now the narrative expands further, connecting figures like Michael Jackson, Oprah Winfrey, and Jeffrey Epstein. Most people view Oprah as a symbol of empathy and trust, the most influential interviewer of her time. But within Hollywood, there's another perception, one less visible to the public. Michael Jackson experienced that firsthand. Oprah interviewed him in 1993 in what became one of the most-watched television events ever. Later, she distanced herself, stating she was never truly his friend. That shift raises questions. The interview shaped public perception, yet the relationship behind it appeared far more transactional than personal. The situation becomes more complex when examining Oprah's long-standing association with Harvey Weinstein. For decades, she was seen alongside him publicly, supporting, praising, and engaging with him at major events. When allegations against Weinstein emerged, reports suggested she maintained contact. Although denied, the documented history of their relationship is undeniable. Actress Rose McGowan even publicly criticized Oprah, expressing disappointment in her perceived role. Meanwhile, controversies also surfaced around Oprah's Leadership Academy in South Africa. Incidents involving misconduct by staff and troubling events among students raised serious concerns. What stands out is the difference in media treatment. While Michael Jackson faced relentless scrutiny, these incidents were often reported with far less intensity. Michael moved within these same elite circles. He observed these dynamics firsthand. While he never directly accused Oprah, he did warn about powerful individuals and hidden systems. Then the story shifts again, from speculation to official records. In 2025, legislation known as the Epstein Files Transparency Act required the release of unclassified documents related to Jeffrey Epstein. When those files were made public, people expected clarity. Instead, they found heavily redacted material, selective disclosures, and unexpected names. Among them, Bill Clinton and Michael Jackson. Images appeared without context, no explanation, no details, no clear connection. For Michael, this was particularly striking, given he had passed away years earlier and could not respond. However, further examination revealed that at least one of these images was taken at a public event, a fundraiser at the Apollo Theater, featuring Michael, Diana Ross, and their children. A normal moment placed into a highly sensitive document collection without context. That raises an important question. Was this transparency or misrepresentation? Meanwhile, other controversial images, such as those involving Donald Trump and Epstein, were briefly removed and later restored after public backlash, adding further skepticism about how the information was handled. What emerges is a troubling pattern: selective exposure, controlled narratives, and the repeated resurfacing of Michael Jackson's name, long after his death. This leads back to the central question raised indirectly by both Dave Chappelle and Jim Carrey. Why does this keep happening? Why is Michael Jackson repeatedly brought into controversies involving powerful figures? And why do certain connections receive scrutiny, while others seem to remain untouched? Neither Chappelle nor Carrey has made direct accusations, but both have described a system, one that protects insiders and dismantles outsiders. Chappelle described how the crazy label is used as a weapon. Once applied, it discredits everything a person says. Michael Jackson experienced that label. Jim Carrey, on the other hand, criticized a culture where people witness troubling behavior yet remain silent, applauding instead of questioning. Together, their perspectives point to a larger idea. There's a system. Some are protected within it. Others are removed when they challenge it. And the most dangerous position isn't breaking rules. It's understanding them and speaking out anyway. Michael Jackson stood on stage and said he was revealing truths others were afraid to speak. He wasn't confused or unstable. He was deliberate. He had seen how the system worked. He had experienced it firsthand. So the real question becomes, what happens to individuals who know too much? We've seen powerful figures rise and fall. We've seen narratives shift depending on who benefits. Looking at everything, the 1993 allegations, the Sony conflict, Oprah's involvement, media coverage, and the Epstein files, a broader picture begins to form. Michael Jackson wasn't just another celebrity caught in controversy. He represented something more threatening to the system itself. And when a threat like that emerges, the system doesn't negotiate, it eliminates. Now consider this. If a system could reshape the image of one of the most famous individuals in history, what does that reveal about who controls the narrative? And if voices like Dave Chappelle and Jim Carrey are pointing toward the same structure from the outside, while Michael Jackson pointed at it from within,